My husband promised he'd handle the bills while I recovered from surgery. When I got home from the hospital, the electricity was cut off, the bank account was empty, and my car was gone. I asked him what happened. He said, "I needed a break. Supporting you is exhausting." Then he walked out with his gym bag. I sat in the dark for 3 days until I found the receipts that led me straight to her. I'm 42, from Kent, Ohio. I was married for 9 years. I had surgery last March, and that's when everything in my life flipped upside down. I'd been dealing with heavy bleeding and pain for a while. Doctors found fibroids. I put it off because of money, work, life, you know how it is. But it got to the point where I couldn't ignore it anymore. My OBGYN said I needed surgery, and soon. It was supposed to be routine but came with recovery time. No bending, no lifting, no work for about a month minimum. My husband, Dean, was supportive at first. At least he seemed that way. He told me not to worry, that he would handle everything, bills, groceries, the house. He even said he'd take time off work if needed. I believed him. We weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid. We didn't have kids, but we had each other. We'd been through deaths in the family, job losses, debt. We always made it out together. So I went in for surgery. It was scary, but it went okay. I stayed in the hospital for 5 days. I had staples in my stomach. Moving hurt. Sitting hurt. I was on meds around the clock and had a nurse assigned for wound checks. When it was finally time to go home, I was relieved. I just wanted to be in my bed, rest, eat something simple, and start healing. A friend of mine, Cheryl, drove me home because Dean said he was stuck in a meeting. That was weird, but I figured, okay, maybe work's crazy. We got home around 2 p.m. When I walked through the front door, something felt wrong right away. It was quiet. Still. The house didn't feel lived in. The air smelled stale, like it hadn't been touched in days. The garbage was full. Mail stacked at the door. I noticed the thermostat screen was black. I tried flipping the light switch. Nothing. I tried the kitchen. Nothing. The microwave display was off. The fridge made no sound. I opened it, and immediately gagged. It reeked. All the food had gone bad. The power was out. My heart dropped. Cheryl helped me sit down. I could barely stand. She tried not to show it, but I could see the worry on her face. "I can stay with you tonight if you want," she offered. "You sure Dean's coming?" "Yeah," I said, unsure. "He should be." She stayed for an hour. I told her I'd be okay. I didn't want to drag anyone else into my mess. But Dean didn't come home that night. Or the next one. Or the one after that. I stayed in the dark for 3 days. No lights. No heat. No food that wasn't in a can. I charged my phone off a power bank. I called him at least a dozen times. Straight to voicemail. I kept telling myself maybe he was stuck at work. Maybe something happened. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. On the third morning, around 7 a.m., the door opened. I was half asleep on the couch, wrapped in 3 blankets. Dean walked in like he had just gone to the gym. He was sweaty, sipping a protein shake, headphones around his neck. He looked surprised to see me awake. "You're up," he said casually. I stared at him. I was too tired to yell. My mouth was dry, my body aching. "Where the hell have you been?" I asked. He blinked like I was overreacting. "I needed a break." "A break?" "The lights are off. The food's spoiled. I've been sitting here in the dark for 3 days. He shrugged. "Supporting you is exhausting, okay? You don't work. You're always sick. I just needed some time. You left me here to rot," I said quietly. "I just got out of surgery." "I left you some soup and stuff," he said like it was no big deal. "Look, I'm crashing at Jake's for a while. I'll be back to pick up some more stuff." Then he grabbed his keys and left. Just like that. No apology. No plan. Just gone. Once the shock wore off, I started looking for answers. First thing I checked was our online banking. I couldn't log in. My access was restricted due to password changes. I called customer service. They said Dean removed my name from all alerts and changed the login. He didn't shut me out entirely, but I couldn't see any new transactions. I checked the credit card company. We had 3 cards. All maxed. All overdue. One of them had a payment due that week, $1, $300 minimum. My car? Gone. He said it was. In the shop. I knew it wasn't. I waited 2 more days. Then I started digging through what he left behind. He had a gym bag in the corner of the bedroom he must have forgotten. Inside were socks, 2 empty protein bar wrappers, a crumpled receipt, and a folded paper from a spa in Akron. The receipt showed a couple's massage from 5 days earlier. My heart sank. I searched the trash can next to the bed. More receipts. One from a hotel in Cleveland. One from a restaurant in Cuyahoga Falls. One from a jewelry store, over $800. Each one signed with his name. And one of them, had a name in the notes section on the hotel bill. Bella. I remembered her. She worked at the same office as Dean. I met her once at their holiday dinner. She was loud, pretty, overconfident. Too touchy with the men. I didn't like her, but I never thought twice. I went online. Searched her name on Instagram. Her profile was wide open. And there she was, with Dean. Photos of them at the hotel. At dinner. At the gym. And then I saw the worst one. Dean and Bella, standing on the hood of my car, throwing peace signs. Caption: Love don't wait for life to be perfect. My stomach dropped. My legs went cold. I threw up in the bathroom sink. This man left me in the dark, while I was healing from surgery, to play sugar daddy to some 28-year-old side chick using my money and my car. And that's when something in me switched. I didn't cry this time. I printed everything. The receipts, the Instagram posts, the hotel bookings. I made copies of the photos of Dean and Bella with my car. I labeled everything, put it in a cheap binder I bought with the last $20 I had. Then I called my cousin Tara. Tara's a paralegal. Smart. Tough. The kind of woman who reads legal documents for fun and keeps pepper spray on her keychain. She came over that same day and sat with me in the cold, wrapped in a blanket, flipping through everything I'd collected. After about 20 minutes, she looked up at me and said, "You've got a case." We went over everything. Dean and I were still legally married. The car was in my name. The bank account was joint, until he changed the login. I had a right to every penny in it before he drained it. Same with the credit cards. Tara gave me a list of things to do: file a police report for the stolen car, dispute the charges on the cards made after my hospital admission, call the utility companies and get the accounts switched back into my name, freeze any shared assets, file for divorce. It was a lot. I was still sore, still taking pain pills, still healing. But I did every single one. And while I was doing it, I started watching Bella's Instagram more closely. She posted everything. Every meal. Every gift. Every surprise trip Dean took her on. She had no idea he was married. She thought she'd scored the prize, some strong, successful man who stepped up for her. It made me sick. One night, maybe a week after I filed the paperwork, I sent her a message. No threats. Just 10 pictures. Receipts. Medical discharge papers. Photos of our wedding. I added a single sentence. He used my surgery money to buy your necklace. She blocked me. But she saw it. I know she did. Because 2 days later, her Instagram went dark. And 3 days after that, Dean showed up. Unannounced. Stormed into the house around noon, demanding to know what I told Bella. I didn't answer. I just hit record on my phone and placed it face up on the coffee table. "You're trying to ruin my life," he shouted. "You already did that," I said. "I lost everything because of your little pity party," he snapped. "You know how hard it is being the only one who works while you sit around?" I stood up. I was shaking, but I kept my voice steady. "I had surgery. I was cut open. I trusted you to handle things while I healed. And instead, you ran off with a girl half your age and left me with nothing." He looked like he wanted to argue, but then he noticed the phone. "Are you recording me?" "Yep." He stormed out. Slammed the door so hard a frame fell off the wall. That night, Bella's profile reappeared, for about an hour. Just long enough for her to post one story. It was a video of Dean's gym bag being thrown off a balcony. With the caption, "You left your wife during surgery? You're trash." I screen recorded the whole thing. A week later, I got a call from the police. They found my car. It was parked behind Bella's apartment complex. Dean had tried to take the plates off, but the VIN was still registered to me. He claimed it was a gift. I showed them the title. In my name. Fully paid off before we got married. He never made a single payment on it. They gave it back to me the next day. It smelled like cologne and fast food. There was one of her hair extensions in the passenger seat and a hoodie of his in the trunk. I threw everything out. Then I changed the locks on the house. That same day, I called his job. He worked for a mid-sized marketing firm in Akron. I didn't call to beg. I called to report that he used company resources to book personal hotels and spa appointments during work hours. I gave them dates, receipts, screenshots. They investigated. He was fired 2 weeks later. And still, Dean had the nerve to text me. "Hope you're happy. You ruined my career." I didn't respond. I was just getting started. About a month after I got my car back, Dean filed a motion through his lawyer. He wanted spousal support. I thought it was a joke at first. But no. His lawyer claimed he'd been the sole financial provider in our marriage and that I was intentionally trying to harm his future earning potential. He actually tried to make himself the victim. Tara and I read through the papers together. She laughed once, then immediately stopped. "He's serious," she said. "He's trying to flip the script." I had proof that the bills hadn't been paid. Proof he used our money on another woman. Proof he left me, not the other way around. But it didn't matter to the court unless I brought everything, neatly, properly, in the right way. So that's what I did. I started keeping a binder. Then 2 binders. Photos, bills, hospital records, credit card statements, texts, screenshots, social posts. I turned my pain into evidence. While I was working on that, I got a call from Bella. Blocked number. I almost didn't pick up. "Is this his wife?" she asked. Her voice was small. Not cocky like online. I could tell she'd been crying. I said yes. She went quiet for a second, then said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know. I swear. I broke things off, but now he won't leave me alone." Apparently, after she dumped him, Dean had been showing up at her work. Her apartment. Leaving notes. Calling her at all hours. She didn't want to file a restraining order yet, but she was close. "I just thought you should know," she said. "He's unraveling." I thanked her. Told her to save any messages or voicemails. 2 days later, she forwarded me 5 screenshots. Dean begging her to take him back. Saying he made a mistake, that he only married me out of guilt. Then turning angry, saying she ruined his life, and would regret this. I added them to the binder. The court hearing for spousal support was scheduled a few weeks later. It wasn't the divorce yet, just the support request. He showed up in a suit that didn't fit right. His hair was longer, messy. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept. His lawyer did all the talking. Mine showed up with the binders. The judge took one look at the timeline we put together: medical records, financial records, photos of Dean with Bella using my property while I was in post-op care, and said there was no basis for spousal support. Request denied. Dean didn't even look at me when we left the courtroom. But I looked at him. And I saw it clear as day. He thought I would fold. He thought I'd stay broken. He thought he could dump me, live his new life, and still get something out of it. But I was still here. Still standing. And now, people around him were starting to learn who he really was. A few weeks later, I got a message from an old coworker of his, Greg. He said, "Hey, I know this is weird, but I think you should see this." Attached were screenshots of Dean trying to apply for work at another firm. But Greg had flagged his resume and passed along the story to HR. Dean had listed Bella's spa as a consulting project, and tried to cover the gap in his employment. HR ran a background check. It didn't go well. Greg ended the message with, "He's going to have a hard time finding anyone to hire him now." It didn't bring me joy. Not really. But it brought peace. I kept healing. My body got stronger. I started walking again. Cooking. Going to the library. I met with a financial counselor to repair the damage Dean did. I was climbing out of the hole, piece by piece. But then, another letter came in the mail. He was contesting the divorce. So now Dean was contesting the divorce. His paperwork said he wanted half of everything, including the house, even though he'd walked out, never paid a cent toward the mortgage after my surgery, and hadn't lived here for months. He also wanted one of the cars. The car that was in my name? He claimed I abandoned it, and that he should be allowed to keep it since he'd been maintaining it. It was laughable. But legally, not a joke. I sat with Tara at the kitchen table, binder open, highlighters everywhere. She wasn't smiling. She looked mad. "He's trying to drain you out," she said. "This isn't about getting things. This is about wearing you down." He knew I was still recovering. He knew I had bills, therapy, and barely enough to get by. He was betting I'd get tired. That I'd settle. That I'd give up. But he still didn't get it. He left me in the dark. Cold. Cut off. With stitches still healing inside me. He thought I'd stay quiet. That I'd stay small. Instead, I got louder. I hired a divorce attorney. Not cheap, but I used the restitution money I'd won earlier and borrowed a little from my mom. My lawyer was a shark. Kind but sharp. She tore through every claim Dean made like tissue paper. We requested full financial disclosure from Dean. His record showed thousands in spa and hotel charges during my recovery, ATM withdrawals that lined up exactly with Bella's trips, a gym membership billed to my credit card, missed tax filings, even a loan he took out in both our names without telling me that last one. It was enough to open up a fraud investigation. He had forged my signature on a $10,000 personal loan. And that was the turning point. My attorney handed the case over to a friend in the prosecutor's office. They started digging. Dean had done this before. Not exactly the same way, but similar. His ex-girlfriend years ago filed a police report that went nowhere. Back then, she didn't have the proof. But now, the DA's office was interested. He was charged with financial fraud and unauthorized use of property. Nothing major, just enough to rattle him. Then Bella filed a restraining order. Apparently, he started showing up outside her new apartment late at night. Her new boyfriend caught him trying to peek in her windows. Cops were called. Bella didn't press charges, but she made sure the judge knew everything. Dean was ordered to stay 500 feet away from her at all times. He had to surrender his firearms, too. I didn't even know he had any. At the final divorce hearing, Dean showed up alone. No lawyer. No tie. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. I brought 3 binders. My attorney brought 2 more. The judge gave me full ownership of the house, my car back, permanently the full contents of our original joint account before he drained it, the right to pursue him for the $10,000 loan if he defaulted. Dean got his clothes, his gym bag, and a deadline. He had to leave town or face further civil action. He muttered something under his breath as we left the courtroom. Something about how I'd ruined his life. I turned and said, loud enough for him and everyone else to hear, "You did that yourself." I didn't say it with rage. I didn't say it with pride. I said it like it was a fact. Because it was. A month later, I got a letter from the bank. Dean had defaulted on the loan. They tried contacting him, no answer. He had left the state, moved somewhere in Indiana. No forwarding address. The bank offered me a settlement. If I paid a portion up front, they'd drop the rest. I took it. I didn't want any part of him following me anymore, not even through debt. I finished healing that summer. I got a part-time job at the public library. Something quiet, steady. I started baking again. I went to therapy. I joined a small support group for women who'd been through emotional or financial abuse. I made friends. Bella even joined one day. We sat across the room. No tension. Just 2 women who'd seen the same storm. Dean tried to message me once more. 6 months after the divorce was final. Said he found God and wanted closure. I didn't reply. Instead, I blocked him and smiled for the first time in a long time. Here's the thing, people like Dean think silence means weakness. That kindness means soft. That love means easy to take from. But when you take everything from someone who trusted you, you don't just leave them hurting. You leave them clear. And once I saw him for who he really was, a selfish, weak, lying coward, I stopped waiting for him to change. I changed instead. And I never looked back.